For today's video, I thought it would be fun to go way back to the beginning of my computing interest in my computing career. And that was way back in the early 80s when my parents one day came home with a Texas Instruments 99 4A home computer. And I must have been 12, 11, 12, something like that at that time. And my parents, they are like any other parents, they have great hopes for their kids. And so they had understood that computing was a big deal, and we didn't have a home computer, so they thought, well, we buy this, and maybe one or all the kids would pick it up and do something with it. I was the only one that did. I actually figured out how to use it. It came with a couple games, but and of course I played the games, but I also wound up. It came with a QBasic manual. It had QBasic on the computer, and so had a manual, and I read the manual on how you write programs in QBasic and figured out how to do that all by myself, and lacking anything else really to do with it. I decided, well, it'd be cool to create games, so I created this one game I remember creating is called the dog guessing game. We at that time I think had 3 different dogs in the family, and I thought it'd be fun to create a game that would show the profile of the dog. It wasn't pictures, of course. I didn't know how to do that. Show the profile of the dog and have the person guess which dog it was. And believe me, our dogs had distinctive profiles. We had this one Basset Hound named Cookie, and she was a chunk. You could definitely tell that profile was Cookie. And so my sisters seemed to enjoy playing with those things, and I learned how to program with that computer. It's really neat. It came with a couple utilities, one of which was a character creation utility, and it would show you that 64 by 64 kind of pixel grid, and you could color in the squares that you wanted, and it would tell you what the hexadecimal character representation of that was, so that you could plug that into a program or something like that. And that's what I used to kind of create these shapes of these dogs. So I would have the black boxes of just kind of where the inside of the dog was and the outside. I had to create one special character around the perimeter of the dog. It took forever, but as a young person, I had all kinds of energy and managed to pull it off. I don't have the program anymore, unfortunately, and there was a couple others that I did. I had a tape deck. There was one of those tape recorders, they used to have with the cassette tapes, and you could plug it in the computer and you could save your programs to the tape machine and pull them off again. So that's the way I'd saved it. That's the way I'd stored it, because the computer didn't have a hard drive. You turned it off and that was it. It just had RAM and CPU. So I had that, and the last thing I remember doing with it was somebody gave me a printout of the Star Trek game. There's this enormous printout of a Star Trek game, and I went home and I actually typed it all in, because that was what you did back then. You didn't have like optical character recognition. You had to type things in, so I typed it in and tried to go run the thing, and it wouldn't run. It had so many subroutines defined. I didn't have enough RAM. I didn't have enough of a stack on the machine, and it would just crash. Of course, I didn't know how to fix it, and of course, there was no such thing as Google back then, and so that's kind of where it stopped. At that point, I was a little bit older, started becoming interested in girls, and of course, girls weren't as interested in computing as I was. So the computer wound up going into a box, and it wound up going into the attic, and thankfully, my dad didn't get rid of it. He kept it, and it stayed in the attic until my parents passed away. And when we were cleaning out the house, I found this computer, and so it's now mine. And I thought, well, that'd be kind of cool. Bring that home and see if I can get it to work. And once I got it to work, what could I do with it? Well, I found online a blog or two on people that had figured out how to surf the internet from their TI 99 4A. And so I'm working on that right now, and I'm going to step through what I did, how I'm doing it, and hopefully we'll have a great story at the end of it where I can surf the internet from my Texas Instruments 99 4A. That was early 1980 purchase.